I'm Mossin Annie, and it's time for Moss Maintenance 102. It's easy enough in 101 to realize that picking up debris, sticks, might need to be something you do by hand. A lot of the leaf blowing you can handle with your power blower. On high, but make sure that you use jerky movements, not that. But sometimes you have no choice but to get really down under, and that's what's got to happen right over here where the rhododendron have dropped their leaves. So let me just show you real quickly. And you might have to actually get down in under your rhododendron. Like this. Okay. Now, it does help if you're small. But the bottom line is that you're not going to be able to reach this stuff unless you get under your rhododendron. I recently did a major leaf debris pickup underneath my azaleas, and it was a lot harder. You know, when I was a little girl, I used to climb under the rhododendron and play. It was like having your own special little fort. But see, this doesn't take very long. I'm doing a hand rake and a plucking motion. See, you kind of pluck them like that, or you rake them. And you get them all together, and it won't take very long. And see how quickly? So some of this may be awkward to do, but it's not that hard, and it doesn't really take that long. See how quickly I got all those picked up? Okay, now I need to put them on a little something else, but for now we're just going to get up and leave this spot. The reality is that moss maintenance seems to be a never-ending story because Mother Nature gifts us with all kinds of extra debris. This is from a pine tree, so don't think you only get pine needles. You also get these little brown footballs. And they're the male catkins of a pine tree. And they can get very thick, and they will literally smother out the mosses. Now, I'm pulling it out where I've done some fragging in using fragments of moss plants. So if you happen to get one, just put your frags back. There's no way I'm going to get them all, but I'll try. And then I had a few more weeds back in here I needed to get too, didn't I? Okay, and they are tiny. Now, as an extra measure, oh, and is this not fanaticism? You can use your whisk broom to clean the catkins off, and that did a fairly decent job. But if you want to go high tech, you can also use your dust buster. I'll never get them all, but at least the mosses will have a chance to breathe and grow again. So weeding truly is a never-ending task. This is Oxalis or wood sorrel. You want to make sure you get that little tiny root out. You can eat it too. Kind of lemony, a little tart. I used to eat it as a kid. You can put it in your salads, but most people do consider it a weed and don't want it growing. And actually, it tasted pretty good. Right. So let's deal with this little old crabgrass that's sneaking in too. And luckily, it's not too hard to pull out. And although I recommend a two-handed method, look at me go! I have learned to become ambidextrous with my weeding. I can get whole little clumps sometimes, like, uh-oh, broke that one. Well, maybe I might not should be such a smarty pants and try to do it that way. But I do want to get these grasses out. Once again, I don't use gloves, because if you had on big old clunky gloves, how in the world would you feel what you're pulling and whether you got the whole root or not, or if you were breaking it? And if you end up with a little moss, do that two-handed method that I've recommended before, where you pull the moss off of the roots and you put it back in the vacant area. This isn't going to be too vacant here, so we'll save these frags for some other spot, probably. And I wish I could be looking up at the camera, but I need to be looking at what I'm doing. And like that, pull that one loose. You get the idea though, don't you? And we're now going to move to another spot to demonstrate how to get rid of really tiny weeds that you may not want, that could even be native plants. Well, all cleaned up. On to the next spot. There are some weeds that I consider more obnoxious than others, and this is the one that if I see it, I pull it. And I don't know how this one snuck past me. Some people get suckered into buying Irish moss from the garden center. It is not a true moss. It is really in the Sagina family, and this is the native version. You can see a little bit of Climasium growing in with it, so I might pull that back out. Yeah, but the catch is that you don't want to keep any of this. Look at it. It looks a lot like a moss. Even its little seed pods look like sporophytes. But believe you me, see, here's a real moss. This is Polystichum. Here's your moss faker, which is this Irish moss or Sagina procumbens. Oh, I see a tiny bit right there too. And I really just want all of that out. Completely. Any tiny bit of it that you leave will continue to grow and spread. Oh, I guess it's time to move on. That's my rooster that crows every day at 11 o'clock so I can determine how much I've accomplished. See, it's really just the phone. Alright, so here is the place where Redman went running through. And so I've gotten me a little bit of moss over here to put back in. Because it's just, I could frag it in, but I think I want it to be solid. So what I'm going to do is use, guess what? My favorite moss, Climasium. And this is what is right here. We got some, there's a little evidence of it elsewhere. And I brought a little extra with me here to use as needed. So I'm going to fill this in. Climasium is a different kind of moss in that it has sideways rhizoids and upright growth. And it has a variety of texture in terms of the fact that you can see bright new green growth, medium colored green, olive green, and even brown. But do not despair, because even on the brown parts, the Climasium will perk back up. Typically, what I'll do is water and walk on this and continue to do that and hope that Redman doesn't run back through and tear it up again. So I'm just kind of pulling the edges, stretching it out so it can fill that spot up. And a quick water walk step. Be right back. And here we go. And really step on it, folks. This is what helps the rhizoids to attach to the soil or the substrate. Then if it looks too smushy, just it's gonna perk back up on its own, but you can just do a little tiny hand fluff and it'll be fine. Okay, that place is fixed. I think I see those big brown discs that I spotted earlier that definitely need to have some repair work. And remember, they were Red Man attributed to, because I think that he took a little leak somewhere here in the moss garden, and it's pretty obvious wherever he goes. So we're gonna head over there now. Goodness gracious, look at this mess. Well, the first thing I will do in a pea spot is give it a heavy hand fluff and see if you can find any good green growth still underneath there. You can still save these frags that don't look like they're too good, but my suggestion is that when you've got established moss and you end up with a pea spot, you need to, one solution that is to frag it. Now, fragging is using fragments of moss plants. Did you notice I happen to have a handy little dandy pocket back here on my new vest, and I keep my frags from weeding back there. Here's a little piece of climacea. And I'm just going to tear up some of these frags that I had already and lay them right on the top. Now you could replace it, like in that vacant spot where Red Man had torn it loose and then it completely disappeared. And we can, but I think for established mosses that it's just as easy to go ahead and put some frags in. Now, of course, you got to use the right mosses for the sun exposure. So I'm happening to use, this spot gets partial shade throughout the day. I'm using a variety of species that are already growing in here. You'll see some atricum here, a little polystichum there, some hypnum over here. And then there's spots where there's climacea as well. But we'll just cover it up like that, literally. Do the same thing over here on this spot. Now, another way is if you don't happen to have frags in your pocket like Mossin Annie does all the time, you might just do a quickly little hand rake of the existing mosses. See how some of it's coming loose, but it's not going to really impact how pretty it is over here. But look at it right here now. So that one actually looks great to me, and I think that I want to scrape a little more in here too. Just like this. Okay, now I can't get all these pine needles out, but once again, this is still moist, so I'm just going to push on it. You can use this with authority. The point is that you want to get your mosses starting to embed in the exact colony. If you peep around over here, you can see a true before and after shot, because this is a pea spot and this is one that's already been fragged, and this was just done yesterday. So you can see that already it has softened the brown overtones of where the mosses were so stressed. So I'll just frag this, and since I like that hand rake method, I'm just going to rake some more on top of it too. I haven't forgotten what's behind me. And the biggest task of all is to deal with the removal of other native plants. I mentioned that with the Sagina pregumbrans. We're going to step over here to the ferns and to some other plants that need to come out of my special back retreat. Do I have a wet bottom? Ha ha ha! Because I'm always sitting in the wet moss. So here we go. You see, there's a little bit of a path there. You can't even walk through to the rest of the garden. I couldn't sit on my bench. So I have no choice but to get rid of some of these ferns. Now, I'm not really pulling the ferns out, because if I did, they have horizontal root systems and they would end up tearing up my moss. So what I'll do is just do some hand raking and breaking them off. Now, anybody recognize this? If you live in a city or even in a suburb, you may have this growing in your lawn. And this is Japanese stilt grass, stiltweed, different names. It's microstegia, but you definitely want to go ahead and get it out. It is an obnoxious weed. If it goes to seed, they can live in the ground and be viable for up to 9 years. So you definitely want to get your stiltweed out. Now, if you'll look closely, this is a native plant here. This is what's called bluets. It gets darling little blue flowers that bloom in the early spring. And it, from a distance, it looks okay right now. But unlike moss, these leaves will turn brown and look obnoxious and ugly in the winter. And they're a bane in my moss garden, meaning that they get on my nerves because they are really, really hard to get out. Violets are another thing that you should be aware of. Even a native violet can be aggressive, but especially the common violet that most people have in their yards. Now, you know, I'm a purple person, so guess who had violets? Guess who doesn't want them anymore? Yep, that's me. I think I'm going to have to get a better angle on that. I'm pulling out another native plant here. This is a wild Impatiens called Jewelweed, and boy, they are very aggressive growers, along with another native plant back here. This, well, there's a whole bunch of them right there. That's ragwort or Jacobian vulgaris, and it's super aggressive. I will be working at getting these ferns out for a while. I won't pull them all. I'm just going to make it more manageable. Oh, and you'll find that the ferns hide other weeds and allow them to grow that you can't even get to. So, having fun in a moss garden may mean you get to make a bouquet of fern fronds that will then end up in a pile. Sorry, fern lovers, but this hay-scented fern is such an aggressive grower. And now I won't be, this is a Polystichum or a Christmas fern. Oh, I got a gall on the end of that one I don't want. Seed pods. But this will take a little while to get rid of all this, but once again, it's easy peasy pulling. Look at me go to town. Oh, whoa. Guess what? Here's an oak tree. I'm not going to be able to get it out unless I go get my clippers. Oh well, I'll have to come back to this one in just a few minutes. Well, folks, oh, I was sitting on it. That's why I didn't see it. But I got to clear all of this out, so at least there's a walking path. And by the way, there's a path over there that you can't even see at all. And there's gorgeous mosses. Oh, and I see some more bluets up there. This is a job that'll take me just a bit longer to achieve. Keep your weeds under control. Deal with your native plants that are aggressive, fast growers. Deal with your debris. Not just twigs and leaves, but those male catkins. By the way, oaks, speaking of oaks, have male catkins too. They're those long stringy things. Oh, well, so be realistic. Plan to take care of your moss garden if you want it to look good. This is Mossin Annie, and that's all the bad news about maintenance for today. I hope you'll like my YouTube channel, subscribe to it, buy my book, get some mosses from my moss shop, and most of all, enjoy yourself as a DIY mosser.